You've been told that dreams are meaningless, just the brain defragmenting, static, random. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever been sold? What if your dreams aren't fiction, but fragments of another truth? Every night, when you sleep, something strange happens. Your body stays. But you, the part of you that's not bound by time, space, or gravity, travels. It slips through dimensions, dissolves the laws of logic, and enters a field far more real than the waking world. And in that space, the veil is thin. The stories make less sense, but the signals are stronger. We treat dreams like imagination because they don't fit our physical logic. But physical logic is just one layer of reality. And dreams don't play by its rules because they aren't from this layer. They are transmissions, wrapped in symbol, encoded in sensation, dripping with meaning that refuses to be translated into linear thought. You felt it before. That one dream you couldn't shake. That scene you remembered more clearly than a real memory. That feeling that lingered for hours, maybe days, like someone had sent you a message in a language you almost understood. That wasn't just a dream, that was contact. You're not dreaming randomly, you're receiving, you're exploring, you're remembering. And the reason you don't always get it is not because the dream is nonsense. It's because your waking mind isn't trained to interpret what your deeper self already knows. The modern world trains you to dismiss anything it can't measure. If it doesn't fit into a chart, a scan, a formula, it must not be real. That's why dreams are brushed off as psychological noise, why you're told they're just your subconscious processing stress. But deep down, you've always known better, because some dreams don't feel internal. They feel external, like you didn't create them, you entered them. That's because you did. Dreams are not hallucinations, they're access points, portals. When your conscious mind shuts down at night, the filters drop, the programming pauses, and what remains is the unfiltered you, your astral self, free to move through layers of reality normally blocked by the senses. And those layers? They're not fantasy, they're parallel dimensions, alternate versions of this life, lives you've lived before, lives you're living now, in timelines your conscious mind cannot see. What you call a dream might be your other self reaching through the fabric of now to send a reminder, a warning, a glimpse of what could be. This is why dreams are often non-linear, why they don't always make sense in waking terms. They're being routed through a symbolic system, because symbols are the bridge between minds, between realms, the color of the sky, the way someone looked at you, the building that had no doors. These aren't errors in logic, they are data, pure data. But you were never taught how to read it. You were taught to analyze, to reduce, to explain things away. And so most dreams dissolve by morning, coded messages never delivered, not because they weren't real, but because you never learned how to listen. But here's the truth no one told you. Your dreams are not memory. They're presence. They're not a reflection of your mind. They're a reflection of where your consciousness has been. Every night, you leave your body, not metaphorically, energetically. Your awareness detaches from the physical vessel and expands into the subtle realms. And depending on your frequency, your emotional state, your spiritual alignment, your unconscious programming, you tune into different layers of that infinite field. That's why your dreamscape changes with your inner state. Fear pulls you into fragmented, chaotic planes. Grief draws you into shadow realms. But love, stillness, openness, they take you higher, into clarity, into communication, into what ancient mystics called the astral libraries, the in-between, or simply home. This is where soul memory lives. Have you ever dreamed of a place you've never seen, but it felt familiar? A face you don't recognize, but felt closer than family? Those aren't tricks of the brain. They're echoes, fragments from the greater self, what some call the higher self, oversoul, or the multidimensional you. And here's the key. Dreams are one of the only times that greater self can reach you directly. Because in waking life, the ego filters everything. It's constantly editing reality, defending what's rational, dismissing anything that doesn't match its narrow version of truth. But when you sleep, ego goes offline, and that's when the real communication begins. The visions aren't always literal. They're layered, symbolic, encoded in archetypes. But the feeling, that unmistakable pull in the chest, that haunting clarity, is the confirmation. You didn't imagine it. You experienced it, and you brought a fragment of that other reality back with you. The question is, what will you do with it? Some dreams don't fade. They stay with you, not just as images, but as frequencies. A weight in the chest, a lingering sensation, a doorway you almost remember how to find. That's not fantasy. That's resonance. That's what happens when a dream touches something true in you, something beyond this lifetime. You see, your consciousness is layered. What you access during waking life is only the tip of the structure. Beneath that, deeper strata hold memory, karma, parallel timelines, and lessons carried from one incarnation to another. And your dreams? They're the bridge to those hidden floors. This is why certain dreams return over and over again, not because your mind is stuck, but because your soul is trying to complete something, a pattern, a realization, a connection left open. The repetition isn't dysfunction, it's a signal, an invitation to pay attention. What's the theme that keeps coming back to you? The symbols that chase you through sleep? The places you visit again and again with no name, no map, but an overwhelming sense of recognition? These are not products of imagination, they are coordinates. Every night, your dreams offer you a map, a puzzle with missing pieces. But those pieces can be felt. Intuition is your compass. Emotion is your decoder. The mind may not understand, but your body always does. Goosebumps, a racing heart, that stillness that falls over you when a dream message lands. And if you start treating your dreams as visits instead of hallucinations, everything changes. You begin to see a pattern. You start to connect the realms. You realize that the you that walks through dreams is not bound by your name, your age, your story. It's the original you, the one who remembers what this life is really about. If your dreams have ever felt more real than waking life, subscribe and turn on the bell. You're closer to the truth than you think. You were never meant to ignore your dreams. In fact, they were designed to guide you, like compass needles hidden in the folds of sleep. Every color, every sound, every sudden shift in scenery is part of a language older than words. But that language speaks in emotion, in symbol, in frequency. You may not remember every detail, but your body does. Sometimes you wake up with a tightness in your chest, a feeling of loss or joy or awe you can't explain. That's not random. That's memory returning from a place your waking self hasn't reached yet, a place outside of time. There are nights when you dream of people you've never met, but feel bound to. Maybe you exchange no words, just a glance, a touch, a moment. And still, the connection feels ancient. That's not coincidence. That's soul recognition. The echoes of contracts, shared missions, or timelines where your lives intertwined. These aren't metaphors, they're multidimensional truths. Because beyond this world is an infinite field where all versions of you are happening at once. Some more evolved, some still struggling, some already carrying the wisdom you're seeking. And in the dream state, the barriers between those selves begin to dissolve. Sometimes your dreams are lessons from a future self. Sometimes they're echoes from your past. Sometimes they're warnings, not to scare you, but to redirect you before the waking path veers too far off course. But most importantly, they're reminders that you are not just this body, not just this life. You are layered, eternal, in motion across realms. And the more you start to trust your dreams, not as fantasy, but as communication, the more clearly the messages come through. Because belief sharpens signal, attention opens the gate, and when you stop dismissing your dreams, they stop whispering and start speaking clearly. Not all dreams speak softly. Some crash through your sleep like lightning, loud, vivid, impossible to ignore. These are the ones that shake you, that wake you up with your heart racing, sweat on your skin, and a truth in your gut that you can't explain. You try to brush it off, call it weird, call it nothing, but it lingers because it wasn't nothing. It was a transmission. Some dreams are designed to break the illusion, to cut through the numbness of waking life and deliver a message so direct that even your skeptical mind can't deny it. You might see a version of yourself you don't recognize, stronger, wiser, older, or completely alien. That's not just a dream character. That could be you in another layer of reality, a version walking a different path, a guide with knowledge your current self hasn't accessed yet. And sometimes, the dream is a test. The symbols are intense. The choices feel real. You're pushed into fear, into conflict, into impossible decisions. It feels like a nightmare. But look deeper. These aren't punishments. They're calibrations. Ways to show you where your frequency still contracts, where the unresolved still lives. When you face those trials in dream space, when you move through fear or stand in your truth, you're not just changing a fantasy, you're shifting your field, and that shift ripples into waking life. Suddenly, you respond differently. You feel lighter, more certain, like something inside you realigned, and you're not sure why. This is dream work, and it's not about decoding meanings from books or dream dictionaries. It's about recognizing that you are the decoder. The emotion is the key. The resonance is the truth. Because in the realms beyond the veil, logic doesn't lead, vibration does. And your dreams? They are the vibration of your soul, speaking in images. You've been taught to ask, what does this dream mean? But meaning is secondary. The better question is, what does this dream change in me? Because real dreams, soul dreams, don't just tell you something. They shift you. You wake up different, quieter, heavier, lighter, haunted, clear. Something has been moved, realigned, and often you can't even say how or why. That's because you didn't just watch something, you experienced something. And experience, at the level of consciousness, is transformation. This is why dreams can feel more real than life. Why you sometimes wake up with tears running down your face from a grief you can't name, or feel love so deep it follows you for days. Because in the dream, it was real. Time and space don't rule there. Neither does logic, only resonance. Some cultures knew this and lived by it. They trained their children to remember dreams as sacred stories. They made decisions for their tribe based on the wisdom found in the night. They built rituals around dream recall, used herbs and music to enhance their journeys, and never once called it just imagination. Because they understood what we forgot, that dreams are not escape, they are return. Return to the parts of ourselves we lose in the noise of the day. Return to messages we asked for but couldn't hear when we were too busy performing, achieving, surviving. And the more you begin to treat your dreams like messengers instead of noise, the more clearly they begin to show up. Vivid, intentional, sometimes even interactive, because once your soul knows you're listening, it speaks louder. The veil only stays closed when you pretend it isn't there. So how do you start receiving dreams not as fragments, but as full transmissions? It starts with intention, not superstition, not force, just quiet, conscious intent. Before you sleep, speak directly to your deeper self, not aloud, internally, with emotion, with sincerity. Ask for clarity, ask for guidance, ask to remember. But don't demand. Dreams don't respond to control. They respond to readiness. Then, protect the first few minutes after waking. Don't grab your phone. Don't rush into the noise. Stay still. Let the images, the feelings, the sensations rise back up. Even fragments matter, because each one is a thread, and over time, with enough attention, the full tapestry begins to reveal itself. Keep a dream journal. But don't just write what you saw. Write what you felt, what lingered, what tugged at your attention hours later. The shape of the dream is important, but the frequency is everything. You'll begin to notice patterns, recurring places, symbolic figures, shifts in color, in gravity, in your own form. These are markers, not just signs from your mind, but markers from other realities, timelines, dimensions you've touched. And slowly, the language of dreams becomes less foreign. You stop asking, was that real? And start asking, what version of me did I just meet? That's the doorway. And with enough presence, that doorway opens wider. You'll start to experience lucid dreams, not as entertainment, but as training grounds. You'll realize you can ask questions in real time, that the figures inside your dreams can respond, that they know things your waking self doesn't, because they're not imaginary. They're versions of you, or messengers, or both. This isn't dreaming. This is multidimensional dialogue, and the more you honor it, the more clearly it speaks. Eventually, you'll come to realize you were never just sleeping. You were receiving, you were remembering, you were returning. Dreams are not fiction. They're not random. They're not meaningless flickers in a tired brain. They are doors, some wide open, some half closed, all waiting for you to notice. And once you do, something shifts. You start moving through your waking life differently. You start paying attention to the energy behind things, not just their shape. You feel the bleed through, moments in the day that carry the frequency of your dreams. A street you've never walked, but somehow know. A stranger whose face stirs something ancient in you. A sound, a word, a glimpse that reminds you of something you still can't explain. That's not coincidence. That's cross-realm recognition. Because reality isn't one layer. It's stacked, interwoven, alive. And when you start receiving your dreams as messages, not just memories, you reconnect with the deeper architecture of who you are. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask not for escape, but for access. Ask to remember what the daytime makes you forget. Ask to meet the parts of you still walking in other worlds. And when you wake, don't dismiss what you saw. Don't brush it off as nothing. Because what if the most important message of your life didn't come in the middle of your day, but in the middle of your sleep? Now tell me, what's the one dream that stayed with you all this time? Drop it in the comments. Maybe it wasn't just a dream after all.